What's up, world? My name is Timothy Hammond, and on the internet, I'm known as the Big City Gardener. And through Big City Gardener, I love to share my knowledge and passion for gardening with the masses. I like to teach people how to grow certain things and then what to do with it after they grow the produce. Well, before we can actually grow the produce, we need to make sure we understand the basic concepts. And by that, I'm talking about something as simple as soil and mulch. So, today, with this video and this summit, we're going to briefly discuss what is soil and what is mulch and how we use the two to have a better garden. So, what exactly is soil? Well, like other things, soil is a planting medium. So let's talk about what is soil. Soil consists of organic materials, minerals, nutrients, water, and most importantly, life. That's right, your soil should be alive. We'll get more on that topic later. The emphasis needs to be on life. If we were to take a teaspoon of garden soil, there would be more life. That's bacteria, fungi, all mixed together doing their thing. There would be more life in that teaspoon than there are people on this planet. So that should let you know how important, or really how much life is actually in the soil. And our job as gardeners is to enrich that life within the soil. Let's make sure we understand one thing. Not all soil is created equally. Depending on which region you live in the United States or in the world, you will have a different blend or a different grade of soil than someone else. Down here where I live in Texas, we have something we refer to as gumbo. It's a clay mixture, okay? It holds a lot of water. But if you head east to, let's say, Georgia, you'll find a soil with a much sandier consistency than we have here. So first, you need to make sure you understand what type of soil you have wherever it is that you live and you are gardening. Now let's talk about the different types of soil that you'll run into out there. There's 4 main types. There are 6 types overall, but there are 4 main types that you'll hear people constantly talking about. The first one is clay, the next is sandy, the next silt, and the most important one is loam. You'll also hear people talk about peaty soil, which has the consistency of peat moss, and you'll also hear people talk about chalky soil. But those two, they're not really ones that we spend much time on. So, like I said, the 4 basic types of soil are clay, silt, sand, or loam. Now what we want is loam soil. Now clay soil, that's harder, more compact soil. It retains a lot of moisture and it does not dry out very well. The next one is sandy soil. Now for sandy soil, think about a beach, and that is exactly what I'm referring to. If you were to pick this soil up, it would fall through the grain of your hands. Now, it does not hold moisture well at all. It dries out extremely quickly, but a benefit of sandy soil is that it's very easy to work with. It's easy to till and it's easy to plant in. Another type of soil is silt soil or silty soil. Now, this soil is extremely rich in vitamins and nutrients and minerals, but the problem is it also retains quite a bit of moisture and it compacts extremely easily. And last is loam soil. Now loam soil is basically a combination of the other 3, the clay, the sand, and the silt. It's a combination of those 3 soils in a perfect ratio that creates a soil that retains moisture but yet dries out in ample time. It's a soil that's easy to cultivate and work with and doesn't necessarily compress and compact like clay and silt soils do. Now, how do I tell what type of soil I have? Well, there's 2 main tests that you can do to determine what type of soil you have in your garden. And you should do these tests prior to starting your new garden. The first one, we call it the squeeze test. Okay, and for this, what we're going to do is dig up some soil and we're going to grab it in our hands and literally compress it. Now that's the squeeze test. Depending on the results of the squeeze test, that will tell you what type of soil it is that you have. Now, if we were squeezing clay soil, once we squeezed it, it will retain that form. and it would dry out and it would harden in that shape. Okay, so if I'm testing my soil and I get a handful and I squeeze it and it compresses into the shape and it retains that shape when I stop applying pressure, then you will more than likely have, or you are dealing with, clay soil. The same can be said about silty soil. If I grab it, if I go to squeeze it and compress it, you'll notice that it will also retain that shape. Now, sandy soil, I'm not even going to be able to compress it into a shape. As soon as I squeeze it and I let go, you'll notice that it just falls apart and it will fall back through your hands. Okay? Now, loamy soil is a combination of all of those. So what happens is when I squeeze it, it will retain the shape. And then when I let go, it will keep that shape for a little bit of time, but then it will break back apart and return to its normal shape. That's how you know you have loamy soil, and that is what you are trying to achieve when it comes to gardening. The other way to test your soil is the water test or the jar method. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scoop a handful or so, a shovelful of soil into a jar with a lid, whether you use a mason jar or any jar you have at your disposal. Then I'm going to agitate it. I'm going to shake that jar, and then I'm just going to set it down on the counter. Come back 12 hours later, and depending how the water and the sediment at the bottom look, that will tell you what type of soil you have. I'll notice after I shake it and it's had time to rest that the color of the water will now be a darky, murky color, and then I will have a layer of sediment at the bottom. That's a way to tell that you have clay or silty soil. Now, if I have sandy soil, after I've allowed the jar to rest, when I look at the jar, I will see relatively clear water and a layer of sand at the bottom of the jar. Now, if I have loam soil, or a way to know that you have loam soil is after you've done this test, when you go back and look at the jar, you'll notice that the water is relatively clear at the top, and you should see 2 or 3 distinct layers at the bottom. You should see followed by a layer of silt or clay underneath, or both, depending on where you live. See? Using one of these 2 methods, you'll be able to tell what type of soil it is that you have in your garden. And now, once I know the type of soil that I have in my garden, I can go and find the correct type of organic amendments to help achieve that loamy texture. Whether that's adding compost or whether that's adding glacial rock dust, it all depends on these tests. Remember earlier we talked about how there is more life in a teaspoon of garden soil than there are people on this planet? Well, keep that in mind whenever you're gardening. People believe that you need to fertilize the plant, and that's true. Plants do sometimes need fertilizer. But 9 times out of 10, you need to increase the life or the biodiversity within your soil. Helping increase or enrich the life in your soil will in turn help make your plant more pest and disease resistant, and also help ensure that you have those bountiful harvests that it is that you're looking for. Also, think, the roots are in the soil, and we all know that root growth is directly correlated to our plant growth, and root health is directly correlated to the health of our plant. Therefore, wherever our roots are touching, we should try to make sure that that is full of life in order to help feed our root system and help make our root system healthier. One way to help ensure that we are taking care of our soil and attempting to build up the life in our soil is through the use of mulch. Now, mulch is often overlooked, but it is one of the secrets to a great garden. But what is mulch? Well, mulch is really anything that we use to cover the soil. Well, why do we want to cover the soil? Covering the soil helps protect our root system. It also helps to ensure that we are retaining the moisture in the soil as opposed to it being evaporated and going right back into the atmosphere. Now, I recommend that you use organic mulch, but if you don't want to or you don't have access to, it's your prerogative. But there are benefits to using organic mulch that you will not receive when using inorganic mulch. But what can I use as mulch? Well, you can use any organic material that breaks down. So that could be hay, straw, leaves, pine mulch, grass clippings, newspapers, anything you have, or really anything that comes out of your garden, you can use it as a mulch. Even compost, which is my favorite mulch to use. So what are the benefits of using mulch? Well, one, it will help regulate the soil temperature. So in the middle of the summer, when it's 100+ degrees outside and the sun is beating down directly on our soil, that mulch adds a layer of protection between the sun's rays and our root zone and the life within our soil. Don't forget about that life. Using mulch will help protect the plants from the sun. Also, another benefit of using mulch is that it helps retain moisture. Again, think about the summertime or think about the fall. Whenever we water, we're putting water into the soil. Now, if we don't cover it, when the sun comes out, the water will evaporate out of the soil. Covering it with that layer of mulch helps keep that moisture down in the root zone. And that will help make sure that you have to water less frequently. And watering less frequently, I know how much I appreciate that when it's the summertime. Another benefit of using mulch is that it helps prevent weeds. See, weeds want to germinate and will grow wherever there is bare soil. So covering our soil with an organic mulch will help make sure that the weed seeds are not able to germinate and grow. Now you can get all of these same benefits from using an inorganic mulch like chipped rubber tires or recycled rubber tires. But this last benefit you cannot get from an inorganic mulch. This last benefit you can only get from an organic mulch. And this is my favorite benefit when it comes to mulching. That is, as the mulch is doing all of the other things, as it's retaining moisture, as it's regulating our soil temperature, as it's helping block out the weed seeds, what it's also doing is decomposing and breaking down. And while it's decomposing and breaking down, it is now returning nutrients into our soil, help feeding our soil food web and help feeding all of the life that is within our soil. And that, to me, there's not anything better that you can do for the garden than that. Spread your mulch out one time in the summer, spread your mulch out again in the fall, spread some mulch in the springtime. As it breaks down, it will help replenish the nutrients that our plants extracted and used while they were growing during the season. It's a win-win. Now that we're armed with knowledge about soil and all of the life within the soil, and also the benefits of using mulch in our garden, make sure you take all of this information and use it on your gardening adventure. I promise you, your garden will thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Big City Gardener, bigcitygardener.com, or Big City Gardener on all social media platforms. That's it. I'm gone. Have a great day.